I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. They didn't expect me to hear it, but I did. And what I heard that night changed everything. I was standing in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd raised my son, where my husband had kissed me goodbye for the last time 12 years ago, when my daughter-in-law's voice floated in from the dining room. "Make sure that's her glass," Hannah said. Her tone was light, almost cheerful. "She'll be out before dessert." I froze. My hand gripped the edge of the serving tray so hard my knuckles went white. There was a pause. Then my son Brandon's voice, lower, uncertain. I couldn't make out his words. Hannah laughed softly. "It's harmless, honey. Just melatonin. She'll sleep like a baby and we can finally have one peaceful dinner without her." Commentary. My heart didn't race. It stopped. Just stopped for a moment, then started again heavier, like it was carrying a weight it hadn't known about before. They were planning to drug me. At my own dinner table. In my own home. I turned slowly toward the small mirror hanging above the stove. It was an odd place for a mirror. My husband had hung it there years ago as a joke, saying I needed to see myself when I got too serious about cooking. Now I saw my own face staring back. Calm, steady. The same face I'd worn when they'd lowered my husband into the ground. The same face I'd worn when Brandon first told me years ago that "Hannah has a different way of doing things, Mom. You have to understand." I'd understood then. I understood now. I walked to the dining room. 10 steps. I counted every one. Hannah and Brandon stood at the table arranging silverware and napkins. They looked up when I entered, both wearing perfect smiles. Not a trace of guilt. Not a flicker of awareness. Hannah kissed Brandon on the cheek. "I'll get the wine," she said, heading toward the hallway. I didn't say a word. I simply smiled back, picked up the water glasses from the table, both of them hers and mine, and carried them to the kitchen. In the quiet of that small room, I poured out the water, refilled both glasses. Fresh, clean water from the tap that had served this house for 40 years. Then I switched them. Her glass for mine, mine for hers. A quiet act. Unnoticed. Final. I set the glasses back on the table, smoothing the napkin beside what was now Hannah's seat. Then I sat down in my chair and straightened the front of my navy dress, the one I'd worn to every important family dinner for the past decade. The one Hannah had once called very traditional, in a tone that made the word sound like an insult. This was my house. The house where I'd lived for 40 years, where I'd buried my husband from the front parlor, where I'd raised my son to be a good man. Or so I'd thought. They'd insisted on hosting the dinner here. "It's cozier," Hannah had said, "more authentic. And besides, you have the best dining room, Chloe." What she meant was that my house looked respectable, that their apartment with its chrome furniture and minimalist aesthetic didn't feel like family. What she meant was that I was useful for appearances. Hannah returned with a bottle of wine, holding it like she was in a commercial. "Cabernet Sauvignon," she announced. "Your favorite, Chloe." She used my first name like it tasted bitter in her mouth. Most daughters-in-law called their husband's mother Mom, but not Hannah. Never Hannah. "Lovely," I said. The doorbell rang. My older grandson Tyler arrived first, already distracted by his phone. He was 22, worked in tech, and had that glazed look young people get when they're only half present. He kissed my cheek absently. "Hey, Grandma. Sorry I'm late. Work thing." "You're not late, sweetheart." Then came Emily, my granddaughter, 19, home from her sophomore year at college. She had my late husband's eyes, gray and thoughtful. She helped me with the napkins without being asked the way she always did. "You okay, Grandma?" she whispered as we stood at the sideboard. "You seem tense." I patted her hand. "I'm fine, dear. Just tired." But Emily had always been perceptive. She studied my face for a moment longer than necessary, then nodded slowly. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes from next door stopped by briefly with a pie. "Just wanted to drop this off for your dinner," she said. "Peach your favorite." "You're a saint, Eleanor." "Well, I know Hannah doesn't bake, so—" She trailed off, giving me a knowing look. Eleanor had been my neighbor for 30 years. She'd watched my son grow up. She'd brought casseroles when my husband died. She knew things without being told. After Eleanor left, we all gathered around the table. 7 of us total, Brandon and Hannah at one end, Tyler and Emily on the sides, and me at the head, though I suspected Hannah saw herself as the real head of this table. The candles flickered. The roast was cooling slightly while Hannah fussed about the lighting, adjusting and readjusting until everything looked perfect for the photo she'd inevitably post on social media. Then came the first sip. Hannah raised her glass of water. "A toast," she said, "to family, to patience, and to keeping things civil." The word civil hung in the air like a threat. Brandon shifted uncomfortably. Tyler didn't look up from his phone. Emily's eyes darted between Hannah and me. Hannah drank. I watched her throat move as she swallowed. Watched her set the glass down with satisfaction. Then I raised my own glass, the one that had been hers, and took the smallest sip, just enough to be polite. Dinner began with the usual small talk. Tyler talked about his job, something involving algorithms and user experience that none of us fully understood. Emily mentioned a literature class she was taking. No one asked about me. They never did anymore. Hannah turned to me with a bright smile. "I hope the roast isn't too salty for your blood pressure, Chloe." There it was, the subtle dig wrapped in false concern. "We'll find out, won't we?" I replied pleasantly. She didn't catch the edge in my tone. She never did. About 20 minutes into the meal, I noticed Hannah blinking more frequently. She rubbed her temple with 2 fingers, took another sip of water. Her fork slowed. "Are you feeling all right?" I asked, my voice gentle, almost kind. "Fine," she mumbled. "Just tired." Brandon glanced at her. "You said you got plenty of sleep last night." "I did." She blinked again, slower this time. "I don't know. Must be the wine." But she'd barely touched her wine. I'd been watching. Another 10 minutes passed. The conversation continued around us, Tyler showing Emily something on his phone, Brandon talking about a case at his law firm. Then Hannah's posture began to slacken. Her words slurred just enough for everyone to notice. "Hannah!" Brandon's voice sharpened with concern. She tried to respond but couldn't quite form the words. Her head bobbed slightly, and then she slumped sideways in her chair. Tyler jumped up, phone forgotten. "What's happening?" Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Brandon caught Hannah before she could fall completely. Hannah, can you hear me?" I rose slowly from my chair, picked up Hannah's water glass, the one I'd been drinking from, and carried it calmly to the kitchen. I poured the remaining water down the drain, rinsed the glass, and set it in the dish rack. When I returned to the dining room, Brandon was lowering Hannah onto the couch, Tyler was calling 911, and Emily was staring at me with wide eyes. She knew. Somehow she knew. While we waited for the ambulance, Hannah drifted in and out of consciousness. She wasn't in danger, I knew that. I'd done my research on melatonin dosages when I couldn't sleep after my husband died. What she'd planned to give me would have knocked me out for hours, made me groggy and confused. Embarrassing, but not deadly. The paramedics arrived within 8 minutes. They checked her vital signs, asked questions. "Has she taken any medication today?" one of them asked. Brandon shook his head. "Not that I know of. Hannah, did you take anything?" She mumbled something incoherent. "Any history of low blood sugar exhaustion," the paramedic continued. "She's been working a lot," Brandon offered weakly. "Stressed." They loaded her onto the stretcher. The diagnosis I knew would be exhaustion. Maybe low blood sugar. Perhaps stress-induced syncope. No one would think to ask what was really in that glass, and I would say nothing. Brandon turned to me as they wheeled Hannah out. "Mom, I should go," I said. "Be with your wife." He hesitated, searching my face for something. Permission absolution, he wouldn't find either. The ambulance pulled away, lights flashing but no siren. Not an emergency then. Good. Tyler left shortly after mumbling about needing to get back to work. Always work with that boy. Emily stayed. She helped me clear the table in silence, the untouched roast, the cold vegetables, the wasted food. When we reached the kitchen, she turned to me. "Grandma," she said quietly, "what really happened? I could have lied. Should have, probably. But Emily had always been special. Perceptive. Kind. The only one who still called me every week when she was away at school. I heard them," I said simply. "Before dinner. Hannah told Brandon to make sure I drank from a specific glass, that I'd be out before dessert." Emily's face went pale, then red. "She was going to drug you. Melatonin, I expect, nothing deadly, just enough to—" "Quiet me down." "That's—" Emily struggled for words. "That's insane. That's criminal." "Perhaps." I dried a dish, placed it in the rack. But proving it would be difficult, and messy. So you switched the glasses. I did. Emily stared at me for a long moment. Then unexpectedly she laughed. Not a happy laugh, a sharp, almost bitter sound. Good, she said fiercely. She deserved it. Emily picked up her phone, scrolling through something. Her expression darkened. Grandma, there's something you should know. She showed me her phone. It was a text conversation between Hannah and someone named Jennifer. Hannah. Once the old lady signs the POA next week, we can finally move forward. Jennifer. You sure she'll sign Hannah? She will. Brandon's handling it. She trusts him. And once it's done, we can start looking at facilities. Jennifer. Still can't believe you're putting her in a home. Isn't she loaded? Hannah. Exactly. That's why we need control before she does something stupid with her money. The words on the screen blurred slightly. I sat down heavily. POA, I asked, though I knew perfectly well what it meant. Power of attorney, Emily said, her voice shaking with anger. Grandma, they're planning to put you in a nursing home, and they want legal control of your finances first. My hands were steady on the table. My mind was racing, but my hands didn't shake. How did you get these messages? I asked. Hannah left her phone in the bathroom earlier. It was unlocked. I know I shouldn't have looked, but Emily's voice cracked. I had a feeling something was wrong. The way she talks about you, the way Dad just goes along with everything she says. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I reached across the table and took her hand. You have nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. But they were going to... I know. I squeezed her fingers gently. But they haven't. And they won't. Emily's eyes filled with tears. What are you going to do? I thought about the house around us, the house I'd lived in for 40 years, the house I'd paid off years ago. I thought about the savings account Brandon didn't know about, the one I'd built up carefully over decades. I thought about the stocks my husband had left me, now worth considerably more than they'd been 12 years ago. And I thought about my son, who'd apparently decided I was more valuable as a source of funding than as a mother. I'm going to make some changes, I said. After Emily left reluctantly, only after I assured her 3 times that I'd be fine, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet. Not peaceful. Just full of memories and ghosts and decisions I'd been avoiding for too long. Hannah's perfume still lingered faintly in the air. Something expensive and overpowering. Sharp. Insistent. Even unconscious, she'd managed to leave her mark. I expected to feel guilt. To feel shaken, perhaps. Some trembling doubt about what I'd done. But all I felt was clarity. Like a fog had finally lifted after years of settling over my life, obscuring things I should have seen clearly. I'd known for a long time that Hannah didn't like me. The signs had been there from the beginning 7 years ago when Brandon first brought her home. Mom, this is Hannah Sterling. She'd looked around my living room that first day, and I'd seen it in her eyes, the assessment, the judgment. The floral curtains were charming. The furniture was vintage. My cooking was rustic. All code words, all dismissals. She came from money. New money, the flashy kind. Her father had made a fortune in real estate before losing most of it in the 2008 crash. But the habits remained designer clothes, expensive tastes, the assumption that wealth equaled worth. And somehow, despite all that money in her background, Brandon and Hannah were always struggling, always behind on bills. That's where I came in. It started small, a loan for furniture when they first moved in together. Just until my bonus comes through, Mom. Then the down payment on their house. It's an investment, Mom. You'll be helping us build equity. Then Tyler's private school tuition when he started struggling in public school. We just want the best for him, Mom. You understand? Then Emily's college fund when their savings fell short. Just a bridge loan, Mom. We'll pay you back. They never paid me back. Not once. And I never asked them to. Because Brandon was my only child, and I thought foolishly, I see now, that if I kept giving, eventually I'd earn my place back in his life. Not as a wallet, but as a mother. Tonight proved otherwise. They didn't just want me quiet. They wanted me unconscious. Out of the picture. An obstacle to be managed, then removed. I walked to my bedroom and opened the closet. On the top shelf in our box I hadn't touched in months were all my financial documents. Bank statements, investment records, the deed to the house. I pulled them down and spread them on the bed. Time to see exactly where I stood. The numbers were better than I remembered. The house was paid off, worth approximately $320,000 in the current market. My savings account held $87,000. The investment portfolio my husband had left me, which I'd barely touched, had grown to $563,000. I had assets totaling just over $970,000. Not wealthy by Hannah's standards, perhaps, but more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. More than enough to matter. And Brandon was still listed on several of my accounts. Joint ownership on the checking account. Beneficiary on the investment portfolio. Executor of my will. I'd set it up that way years ago when he'd first married Hannah. Just in case something happens to you, Mom. It'll make things easier. Easier for whom, I wondered now. I made a list on the notepad beside my bed. 1. Remove Brandon from all accounts. 2. Change will. 3. Create trust for Emily. 4. Cancel all automatic payments to their accounts. 5. Call Richard Davidson, lawyer. I stared at the list for a long time. This wasn't anger. It was self-preservation. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. Mom, they're keeping Hannah overnight for observation. They think it's exhaustion and low blood sugar. She hasn't been eating enough. Can we talk tomorrow? I turned off my phone without responding. Sleep didn't come easily that night. My mind replayed the conversation I'd overheard over and over. Hannah's casual tone. Brandon's passive acceptance. Make sure that's her glass. How long had they been planning this? How many other times had they discussed me like I was a problem to be solved, a burden to be managed? I thought back over the past 7 years. The times I'd been excluded from family photos. The Christmas cards that went out without my name. The birthday parties for the grandchildren where I was invited last minute, almost as an afterthought. Sorry, Mom. We thought we'd sent you an invitation. Must have gotten lost in the mail. The summer vacation to Lake Morrison they'd taken without telling me. I'd found out from Emily's Instagram post. The times Hannah had corrected me in front of others. It's pronounced bruschetta Chloe, not bruschetta. Actually, Chloe, the proper term is gluten-free, not no gluten. Chloe, we don't really use the word Oriental anymore. Each correction small, insignificant on its own. But accumulated over years, they formed a pattern, a systematic diminishment. And Brandon had watched it all happen. Sometimes he'd given me that apologetic look. Sorry, Mom, you know how she is, but he'd never stopped her. Never defended me. He'd chosen his wife over his mother. That was his right, I supposed. A man should prioritize his spouse. But there was a difference between prioritizing and enabling, between supporting your wife and allowing her to abuse your mother. Brandon had crossed that line years ago. I got up at dawn, made coffee the old-fashioned way in the percolator my husband had bought me 30 years ago. Hannah had tried to give me a Keurig last Christmas. It's so much more convenient, Chloe. This old thing is practically an antique. I'd smiled and accepted the gift, then quietly returned it to the store. Used the store credit to buy a warm coat for Emily. The coffee tasted good. Strong and bitter and real. I pulled out the phone book. Yes, I still kept one, and found the number for First Carolina Federal Bank. They opened at 9. At 9:02, I was on the phone with a customer service representative named Sarah Williams. Good morning, Mrs. Lawrence. How can I help you today? I need to make some changes to my accounts, I said. My voice was steady, calm. I want to remove my son Brandon Lawrence from all shared accounts and beneficiary designations. There was a pause. I see. May I ask if there's been a dispute or... That's personal, I said politely but firmly. I simply want him removed, today if possible. Of course, Mrs. Lawrence. I'll need to verify your identity first. We went through the security questions. Then Sarah pulled up my accounts. I'm showing 3 accounts where Mr. Brandon Lawrence is listed. 1 joint checking account, 1 savings account where he's designated as beneficiary, and 1 investment account also with beneficiary designation. I want him removed from all of them. Understood. For the joint checking account, we'll need to close it and open a new account in your name only. For the beneficiary designations, I can change those immediately. Would you like to name a new beneficiary? Yes, my granddaughter Emily Ann Lawrence. Very good. And for the new checking account, would you like to transfer the full balance from the joint account? I thought about that. The joint account held about $12,000, money I'd deposited over the years. Brandon had access, but rarely used it. He didn't need to since I paid for most things directly. Yes, transfer everything. Perfect. I'm processing that now. Mrs. Lawrence, I should mention that closing the joint account will generate a notification to Mr. Brandon Lawrence as he's currently a joint owner. I understand. And the automatic payments you have set up, I'm seeing several that go to accounts associated with Mr. Lawrence's household. The mortgage payment for 428 Maple Street, the insurance premium for his vehicle, the tuition payments for— Cancel all of them, I said. Sarah paused. All of them. Every automatic payment associated with my son or his household. Cancel them all. Another pause. Longer this time. Mrs. Lawrence, that's quite a few payments. Are you certain? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. An hour later, Emily appeared at my door. She looked like she hadn't slept. Grandma, I need to show you something. She came in, set her bag on the kitchen table, and pulled out a small bottle. Orange plastic, the kind prescription medications come in. This was in Hannah's purse, Emily said. It fell out last night when I was helping clean up. I didn't think anything of it at first, but then I looked at the label. She handed me the bottle. Zolpidem 10 milligrams. Take 1 tablet by mouth at bedtime as needed for sleep. Patient Hannah Sterling Lawrence. Dr. Patricia Morrison. The bottle was nearly empty. According to the label, it had been filled 2 weeks ago with 30 tablets. Now there were only 6 left. Grandma, Emily said quietly, if she's supposed to take one at bedtime and she got this prescription 14 days ago, she should have at least 16 pills left. She's missing 18. I looked at my granddaughter. So smart, so observant. She might have taken more than prescribed, I suggested. Insomnia can be— Or she's been saving them up for something specific, Emily interrupted. How many do you think she put in your water? I'd been wondering the same thing. 1 tablet, too, enough to make me drowsy and compliant certainly, enough to make me seem confused, perhaps even senile. Look how forgetful Chloe's getting. Maybe it's time to think about her care needs. The perfect setup for a power of attorney conversation. We should take this to the police, Emily said, and tell them that my daughter-in-law had sleeping pills in her purse. That's not a crime, sweetheart. But she was going to drug you. Allegedly. We have no proof. We didn't test the water. We have no witnesses to what she said. I'm the only one who heard it. And even if we did go to the police, what would happen? A family scandal, legal battles, and for what? She'd claim it was a misunderstanding, that I misheard, that I'm getting confused in my old age. Emily's eyes filled with tears. This isn't fair. No, I agreed. It's not. But fairness and justice aren't always the same thing. I took the pill bottle and placed it in my purse. Evidence, I thought. Just in case. What are you going to do? Emily asked. I thought about that question. About Brandon's text still unanswered on my phone. About the bank accounts I'd just separated. About the life I'd been living for the past 7 years. Always accommodating, always helpful, always available to be used. I'm going to take back my life, I said. Emily looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached into her bag again and pulled out her phone. There's one more thing, she said. After I found the text last night, I kept looking. Grandma, did Dad ever mention giving you a lake house? I frowned. A lake house, no. Why would he— She showed me another text thread, this one between Brandon and Hannah from 3 months ago. Brandon. I told Mom about the Lake Morrison property. She seemed really happy. Hannah. Perfect. Once she signs it over to us, we can flip it or rent it out. Either way, it's at least $200,000. Brandon. She doesn't know it's already ours though, right? Hannah. Of course not. As far as she knows, it's a gift from you to her. She'll be so grateful she'll sign whatever we put in front of her. My vision blurred slightly. What lake house? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I looked it up, Emily said. Dad inherited it when Great-Uncle William died 2 years ago. It was supposed to be split between Dad and Uncle Frank, but Uncle Frank signed his half over to Dad. The property's worth about $280,000. And Grandma, she paused, you were never supposed to know about it. They were going to pretend to give it to you, have you sign some papers probably transferring it back to them, and then tell you later that you couldn't handle the maintenance or property taxes. I stared at Emily's phone screen until the words blurred. Lake Morrison, $280,000. A gift that was really theft. My hands started to shake then, not from fear, from rage so pure and cold it felt like ice water in my veins. Grandma, Emily's voice seemed far away. Are you okay? I set the phone down carefully on the table, took a breath, then another. I'm fine. I said, but my voice didn't sound like mine. Emily sat down across from me, her face pale. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have shown you like that. I should have— No. I reached across and gripped her hand. You did exactly right. I needed to know. What are we going to do? That word. We. Emily had chosen a side, and it wasn't her father's. I looked around my kitchen, the kitchen where I'd made countless meals for my son, where I'd baked birthday cakes and packed school lunches and cooked Sunday dinners, where I'd believed I was building a family. What a fool I'd been. First, I said slowly, we're going to see my lawyer. Then we're going to make absolutely certain that Brandon and Hannah never have access to a single penny of mine again. Richard Davidson had been my lawyer since 1987. He'd handled my husband's will, the deed transfer on this house, and every legal matter I'd had for nearly 40 years. He was 70 now, sharp as ever, with white hair and reading glasses that perpetually perched on the end of his nose. His office still smelled like old books and lemon furniture polish. Some things, thank God, didn't change. Chloe, he said warmly, rising from his desk as his secretary showed me in. Then he saw my face, and his expression shifted. What's happened? I sat down in the leather chair across from his desk, the same chair I'd sat in when we'd handled my husband's estate. Emily took the seat beside me. Richard, I need to change my will. Completely. He pulled out a legal pad and his fountain pen. All right, tell me what you're thinking. So I did. I told him everything. The dinner party, the overheard conversation, the switched glasses, Hannah's collapse, the text messages about the nursing home and the power of attorney, the lake house scheme. Richard's expression grew darker with every sentence. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me over his glasses. Chloe, what they're doing, what they were planning to do, that's elder abuse, financial exploitation. The forged documents alone could be criminal fraud if they'd gone through with it. I know. You could press charges, report this to Adult Protective Services, get a restraining order. I don't want revenge, Richard. I want protection. He studied me for a long moment. What do you want? I pulled out the list I'd made the night before. I want Brandon removed as executor of my will. I want him removed as beneficiary. I want Emily named as executor and primary beneficiary. I want to create an irrevocable trust for Emily's education and future something no one can touch, including me once it's established. And I want documentation of everything Hannah and Brandon have done just in case. Richard made notes. That's all very doable. The trust will take some time to set up properly, but we can change the will and executor designation today. He paused. Chloe, I have to ask, are you absolutely certain Brandon is your only child? He stopped being my child the moment he decided I was worth more as a checkbook than as a mother. Emily reached over and squeezed my hand. Richard nodded slowly. All right then, let's get started. The process took 3 hours. Richard pulled my existing will, the one that left everything to Brandon, with Tyler and Emily receiving small bequests of $10,000 each. The one that named Brandon as executor, giving him complete control over my estate. Let's tear this up, Richard said, and build something new. We went through it piece by piece. Primary beneficiary Emily Ann Lawrence would inherit the house, the contents, and 70% of my liquid assets and investments. Secondary beneficiary Tyler James Lawrence would receive a one-time payment of $75,000. Not enough to be unfair, but not enough to make him dependent either. Tyler had always been distant, but he wasn't cruel, just absent. Executor Emily would handle my estate with Richard as backup if she was unable or unwilling. Trust fund, we created a separate irrevocable trust with $450,000 for my investments. It would be managed by Richard and couldn't be accessed by anyone, including Emily, except for educational expenses and housing until Emily turned 25. After that, it would be hers outright. Brandon's portion 0. Nothing. Not a chair, not a photograph, not a penny. You're certain about this? Richard asked one more time as we reviewed the final draft. I thought about my son. About the little boy who'd cried when his goldfish died, who'd helped me plant tomatoes in the garden, who'd held my hand at his father's funeral. Then I thought about the man who'd stood in my dining room and helped his wife plan to drug me. I'm certain. We'll need witnesses, Richard said. 2 people who aren't beneficiaries. I can call my cousin Patty, I said. She lives about 20 minutes away. Richard nodded. Perfect. I'll have my paralegal Janet serve as the second witness. Patty Morrison arrived 40 minutes later, breathless and concerned. She was 72, my mother's sister's daughter, and the only family I had left besides Brandon and the grandchildren. "Chloe, what's going on? Your message sounded urgent." I explained everything again, watched Patty's face go from concerned to shocked to furious. "That manipulative little—" Patty caught herself glancing at Emily. "Sorry, sweetie, but your mother is a piece of work." "Stepmother," Emily corrected quietly. "And I agree completely." Patty turned back to me. "You should have told me what was happening. I knew Hannah was cold, but this Chloe, this is abuse." "I know. That's why I'm fixing it." Richard brought out the new will. Patty and Janet read through it, then signed as witnesses. Richard notarized everything. The whole process was surprisingly quick once we started less than 15 minutes to undo 42 years of assuming my son would take care of things when I was gone. "Done," Richard said, placing the documents in a folder. "I'll keep the original here in my safe. You'll get 2 certified copies, keep one in your safe deposit box and one at home in a secure location." "What about the trust?" I asked. "I'll have the paperwork ready by Friday. We'll need to transfer the funds from your investment account into the trust account. Once that's done, the money is locked. No one can touch it without court approval, and even then only for Emily's benefit." I felt something loosen in my chest. The beginning of relief, maybe. Or just the absence of fear. "There's one more thing," I said. "The lake house." Richard's eyebrows went up. "The Morrison property." "You knew about it." "I handled William's estate when he passed. The property was split between Brandon and Frank, but Frank signed his half over to Brandon about 6 months after the inheritance was finalized. I assumed Brandon told you." "He didn't. In fact, he was planning to pretend to give it to me, have me sign some kind of transfer document, and then take it back." Richard's jaw tightened. "That would be fraud. Clear prosecutable fraud." "Can you find out who currently owns the property legal ownership?" "Give me 10 minutes. He left the office. Patty put her arm around my shoulders. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "I know it hurts, but you're protecting yourself." "That's not selfish. That's survival." Was I doing the right thing? I honestly didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't keep living the way I had been diminished, dismissed, valued only for what I could provide. Richard returned with a printout. "The Lake Morrison property, 2847 Lakeshore Drive. Current legal owners, Brandon Lawrence and Hannah Sterling Lawrence, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. Purchased from the estate of William Morrison for $100 and other valuable consideration." He looked at me. "Chloe, this property was never yours. You have no legal claim to it." "I know. I just needed confirmation that they lied." "They absolutely lied." Richard set the paper down. "And if they'd gotten you to sign anything related to this property, they would have been committing fraud. Do you want me to document this?" "Yes. Document everything." We left Richard's office at 2:47 p.m. My phone had been buzzing periodically throughout the meeting texts from Brandon that I hadn't answered. In the car, Emily drove while I finally looked at the messages. Brandon, 9:15 a.m. "Mom, Hannah's being discharged. They said it was exhaustion and low blood sugar. She needs rest. Can you call me? Brandon, 10:33 a.m. "Mom, I really need to talk to you. It's important." Brandon, 11:52 a.m. "Why aren't you answering? Is everything okay?" Brandon, 1:24 p.m. "Mom, I just got a notification from the bank. Did you close our joint account?" There it was. Brandon, 1:31 p.m. "The mortgage payment bounced. Mom, what's going on? Call me." Brandon, 2:15 p.m. "This isn't funny. We need that account. Call me immediately." The progression from concern to confusion to anger was almost funny. Almost. I turned off my phone. "He knows," Emily said, glancing at me. "He knows I closed the joint account. He doesn't know about the will yet. Or the trust. Or the fact that every automatic payment I've been making for them just got canceled." "How much were you paying for them every month?" I'd calculated it this morning while waiting for the bank to open. Mortgage payment, $200. Car insurance for both vehicles, $340. Tyler's apartment rent, $950. Hannah's gym membership, $180. The gardening service for their house, $200. Health insurance supplement, $425. Cell phone plan for the whole family, $280. Private tutoring for Tyler when he was younger, which I never canceled, $400. Credit card minimum payments when they forgot, usually around $500. Various subscriptions, streaming services, meal kits, that wine club Hannah loves, another $300. Grandma, Emily did the math in her head. That's over $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. For the past 7 years, yes. That's over $400,000. $420,000 actually, give or take. I looked out the window at the passing storefronts of downtown. I kept track. Every payment, every loan, every temporary help until the bonus comes through. Emily was quiet for a moment. Then did they ever pay you back even once? No. Did they ever even say thank you? I thought about that. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. They stopped saying thank you around year 3. After that, it just became expected. We stopped for lunch at a small cafe downtown. I wasn't hungry, but Emily insisted I eat something. You've had a shock, she said. Multiple shocks, actually. You need food. I ordered soup. Chicken noodle, the kind my mother used to make when I was sick. Comfort food. Emily ordered a sandwich and then leaned forward. Grandma, I need to tell you something. About Dad. I set down my spoon. What is it? He's not happy. In his marriage, I mean. He hasn't been for a while. How do you know? I hear them fighting when I'm home from school. They try to be quiet, but their bedroom is right above the living room and the vents carry sound. She picked at her sandwich. It's always about money. Hannah spends too much, Dad works too much. They can't afford the lifestyle Hannah wants. She threatens to leave. He begs her to stay. She trailed off. Unhealthy, I finished. Yeah, and Grandma, I think maybe Hannah is the one who pushed for all of this. The nursing home thing, the power of attorney, maybe even the drugging. I think Dad just went along with it because he's afraid of losing her. That doesn't excuse what he did, Emily. I know. I'm not making excuses. I think he's weak. Not evil, just weak. Weak. Yes, that was the right word. Brandon had always been a people pleaser, even as a child. He'd wanted everyone to like him, to approve of him. And when he couldn't please everyone he'd chosen, whoever shouted loudest. Apparently, Hannah shouted loudest. Being weak is a choice too, I said. He chose not to stand up for me. He chose to let Hannah treat me like a burden. He chose to participate in planning to drug me and steal my autonomy. I met Emily's eyes. I love your father. I always will, but I don't trust him anymore, and I won't give him the power to hurt me again. Emily nodded slowly. I understand. My phone buzzed in my purse. I turned it back on to check the time. Not Brandon this time. Hannah. Hannah, 3:14 p.m. Chloe, we need to talk. There's been some kind of misunderstanding with the bank accounts. Brandon is very upset. Please call. I showed the message to Emily. She snorted. Misunderstanding. Right. The misunderstanding where she tried to poison you. Technically, she tried to drug me. Poison implies intent to harm. Grandma, she absolutely intended to harm you. Maybe not physically, but definitely mentally and financially. Fair point. I didn't respond to Hannah's text either. We were finishing lunch when Emily's expression changed. She was looking at her phone, scrolling through something. Oh my God, she whispered. What? She turned her phone toward me. It was a photo of a document, a power of attorney form. My name was at the top. Brandon's name as the designated agent. And at the bottom, what was clearly meant to be my signature. But I'd never signed this document. Where did you get this? I asked, my voice sharp. Hannah's purse, last night. I took pictures of everything that looked important. I was going to show you, but then everything happened so fast. She zoomed in on the signature. Grandma, is that your signature? I studied it carefully. It was close. Very close. The right general shape, the little flourish on the C in Chloe. But the L in Lawrence was wrong, too straight, not curved enough. And the pressure was different, heavier than I usually wrote. No, I said. That's not my signature. It's a forgery. Emily's face went white. That's a felony, isn't it, forging legal documents? It is, especially when those documents involve financial control over an elderly person. I took a screenshot of Emily's photo. Forward this to me, and then send it to yourself in an email. We need multiple copies. Should we take it to the police? I considered that. A police investigation would mean questions, interviews, publicity. It would mean my son potentially going to jail. Hannah definitely going to jail. Did I want that? The answer surprised me. No, I didn't want Brandon in jail. Despite everything, I didn't want to destroy him. But I wanted insurance. I wanted them to know that I could destroy them if they pushed me. Not yet, Dee said. But we're keeping this evidence, and we're showing it to Richard. Back in Richard's office an hour later, he examined the photo of the forged POA with a grim expression. This is serious, Chloe. This isn't just unethical. This is criminal fraud, elder abuse, forgery. If you take this to the authorities, I don't want to, not unless I have to. Then what do you want? I want it documented, officially. I want a notarized statement from you as my attorney that you've examined this document and confirmed it's a forgery. I want it on record that this document is fraudulent and that I never authorized it. And I want copies secured in multiple locations. Richard nodded. I can do that. I can also file a preemptive statement with the county clerk's office declaring that any power of attorney documents purporting to be signed by you are invalid unless they're filed through my office with specific security codes. Do it. He made notes. Chloe, I have to ask again. Are you sure you don't want to pursue this criminally? What they did, what they were planning to do, it's not just wrong. It's illegal. They were going to take control of your life. I know, but Richard, if I call the police, this becomes public. It becomes a scandal. Tyler and Emily would be caught in the middle, and Brandon, I paused. He's still my son. I don't want to send him to prison. I just want him to leave me alone. Richard studied me for a long moment. You're a better person than I would be in your position. No, I'm just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of being used. Tired of trying to fix things that can't be fixed. What's your plan then? I'm going to let them panic for a while. Let them realize that the money has stopped. Let them scramble. And then when they come to me, and they will, I'm going to make my position very clear. They can have their lives, but they can't have my money, my assets, or my autonomy. And if they ever try something like this again, I'll take this evidence straight to the police. And you think that will work? It has to, because the alternative is either letting them win or destroying my own son. And I won't do either. Brandon showed up at my house at 6:47 p.m. I'd been expecting him, had in fact been surprised it took him this long. Emily was still with me. She'd insisted on staying, and I was grateful. Patty had gone home but promised to come back if I needed her. Just call Chloe, anytime, day or night. When the doorbell rang, Emily and I looked at each other. You don't have to let him in, she said. I know, but we might as well get this over with. I opened the door. Brandon looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed. He had dark circles under his eyes and a desperate look that reminded me painfully of the little boy he'd been when his father died. Mom, he said, please, I need to talk to you. I didn't step aside, didn't invite him in, just stood in the doorway. Talk then. He glanced past me, saw Emily in the living room. Can we do this privately? No. Emily stays. She's involved in this too. Involved in what, Mom? I don't understand what's happening. The bank accounts are frozen. The mortgage payment bounced. Hannah says you're not returning her calls. Do you really not understand, Brandon? Or are you pretending? He blinked. What? I stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door partially closed behind me, forcing him to step back, establishing that this was not a conversation that would happen in my home. I heard you, I said quietly. At dinner, you and Hannah. His face went pale. Mom, don't lie to me, not now. I heard Hannah tell you to make sure I drank from a specific glass. I heard her say I'd be out before dessert. I heard everything. Brandon's mouth opened, closed, opened again. It wasn't she didn't mean. What didn't she mean, Brandon? Did she not mean to drug me? Did she not mean to put sleeping pills in my water so I'd be unconscious, and you could have a peaceful dinner? Which part didn't she mean? It was just melatonin, he said weakly. Just to help you relax. You've been so tense lately, so critical of everything, and Hannah thought she'd solve the problem by drugging me without my knowledge or consent. And you agreed. You didn't stop her. You knew what she was planning and you didn't stop her. You're a lawyer, Brandon. You know that's illegal. You know that's abuse. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. Mom, please, you're overreacting. It was just supposed to make things easier. Easier for whom? For you. For Hannah, certainly not for me. I crossed my arms. Tell me about the Lake Morrison house, Brandon. He froze. What? Well, the property you inherited from Uncle William. The $280,000 property that you were planning to pretend to give to me, have me sign some documents and then take back. That lake house. We weren't, Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You lied to me. You and Hannah have been lying to me for years, taking my money, using me as a bank, and planning to take even more. And when I became inconvenient, when my questions and commentary got in the way of your plans, you decided to drug me into compliance. That's not what happened. Then tell me what happened, Brandon. Explain it to me. Make me understand how my own son could stand in my kitchen and help his wife plan to drug me. He was crying now, actual tears running down his face. I didn't want to. I told her it was wrong. But she said you were making things difficult, that you were always criticizing her, always making her feel unwelcome. And if you just relax for one dinner, maybe we could all... So it's my fault? No, I didn't say that. You just did. You said I was making things difficult, that I was criticizing her, that I was the problem. I felt very calm, very cold. Brandon, do you know how much money I've given you in the past 7 years? He shook his head. $420,000. Mortgage payments, insurance, credit cards, rent memberships, subscriptions. $420,000 that you never paid back, that you never even thanked me for after the first few years. I didn't ask you to. Yes, you did. Every time you called with an emergency, every time Hannah mentioned that things were tight, every time you sighed about bills or expenses or how hard everything was, you asked, and I gave, because you're my son, and I loved you, and I thought I was helping. You were helping. I was enabling. I was making it possible for you to live beyond your means and never face consequences. I was teaching you that Mom would always be there to bail you out. I took a breath. Not anymore. What do you mean? I mean, I've closed the joint bank account. I've canceled every automatic payment I was making on your behalf. I've removed you from my will and named Emily as my executor and primary beneficiary. And I've created a trust fund that you and Hannah can never touch. Brandon staggered backward like I'd hit him. You can't, Mom, you can't do this. I already did. This afternoon. It's done. But the mortgage, the insurance, Mom, we need that money. Then you'll have to earn it. You're a lawyer, Brandon. You make a good salary. Hannah works in marketing. Between the two of you, you should be able to afford your own bills. You don't understand, we have expenses. The house payment alone is $2,100 a month. I know. I've been paying it for 6 years. I looked at my son, this man who suddenly seemed like a stranger. You should have thought about those expenses before you bought a house you couldn't afford. Before you decided I was more valuable drugged and compliant than awake and aware. Mom, please. There's one more thing you should know, I said. I have evidence. Photos of a power of attorney document with my forged signature on it. Text messages about putting me in a nursing home. Records of every lie you and Hannah have told me. And if you ever try something like this again, I will take all of that evidence to the police. Do you understand me? Brandon's face had gone from pale to gray. How did you? That doesn't matter. What matters is that I have it, and I will use it if I need to. You'd send me to jail, your own son. You'd drug me, your own mother. I held his gaze. I don't want to destroy you, Brandon. I just want you to leave me alone. You can have your life with Hannah. You can keep your house, your cars, your lifestyle. But you'll do it without my money. And you'll do it knowing that if you ever come near me with anything other than honest intentions, there will be consequences. He stood there crying broken. Part of me wanted to comfort him. The mother part, the part that remembered rocking him to sleep and kissing scraped knees. But the woman part, the part that had been used and dismissed and nearly drugged into submission, that part stayed firm. Goodbye, Brandon, I said, and I went inside and locked the door. Emily was standing in the living room when I came back in tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Grandma, she whispered. I'm so sorry he did this to you. I held her while she cried. My strong, brave granddaughter who'd had to watch her father reveal himself as weak and selfish. It's not your fault, sweetheart. I know, but he's my dad, and he's awful. How did I not see how awful he is? He's not awful. He's weak. There's a difference. I stroked her hair. Weak people can still love. They just don't know how to love well. We stood like that for a long time. Outside, I heard Brandon's car start and drive away. My phone buzzed. A text from Hannah this time. Hannah, 7:23 p.m. I don't know what Brandon said to you, but you're making a huge mistake. We were only trying to help. When you're ready to be reasonable, call me. I showed it to Emily. She made a disgusted sound. She's still trying to manipulate you. Yes, but it won't work anymore. I blocked Hannah's number, then Brandon's, then sat down heavily on the couch. Grandma, you okay? I think so. It's just a lot. Do you want me to stay tonight? No, sweetheart, you should go home, get some rest. You have class tomorrow. I'm not leaving you alone after all this. Emily, I took her hand. I need to be alone tonight. I need to process, to sit with what happened and figure out how I feel about it. Does that make sense? She hesitated, then nodded. But I'm coming back tomorrow, and I'm calling you tonight before bed to make sure you're okay. Deal. After Emily left, I sat in the quiet house, the same house where I'd raised Brandon, where my husband and I had built our life, where I'd thought I'd eventually be a beloved grandmother, baking cookies and hosting holidays. Instead, I was 70 years old alone and estranged from my only child. Was this victory? It didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. I was sitting in the dark, still on the couch, when my phone rang at 9:47 p.m., unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Mrs. Lawrence. This is Detective James Morrison with the County Sheriff's Office. My heart stopped. Yes, I'm calling because we received a complaint earlier this evening. A Mr. Brandon Lawrence claims you've been financially exploiting him and have stolen money from joint accounts. He's requesting a welfare check and possible investigation into elder financial abuse with you as the perpetrator. I almost laughed. Almost. I see. Ma'am, I need to ask you some questions. Are you currently safe? Are you being coerced or controlled by anyone? Detective Morrison, I'm perfectly safe and in full control of my faculties. The joint account in question was mine. Brandon was simply listed on it for convenience. I closed it today and opened a new account in my name only, which is my legal right. I understand. Can you tell me about your relationship with your son? So I did. I told him everything carefully, factually, without emotion. The dinner party, the overheard conversation, the switched glasses, the text messages about the nursing home, the forged power of attorney. There was a long silence when I finished. Mrs. Lawrence, do you have evidence of these claims? I do. Photographs, text messages, medical records showing my daughter-in-law was treated for a sleeping medication overdose, her own medication which she'd apparently planned to give to me. Another pause. Mrs. Lawrence, what you're describing is elder abuse. Your son and daughter-in-law could face serious criminal charges. I know, but I don't want to press charges. I just want them to leave me alone. Ma'am, I have to advise you that, Detective, I appreciate your concern, but I'm 70 years old. I'm of sound mind. I have a lawyer and I've taken steps to protect myself. If my son or his wife contact me again, I'll call you immediately. But right now, I just want peace. Detective Morrison sighed. All right, but Mrs. Lawrence, there's something you should know. I'm Patty Morrison's brother. I sat up straight. Patty's brother, James? Yes, ma'am. She called me this afternoon after leaving your lawyer's office. Told me the whole situation. When Brandon filed this complaint, it came across my desk and I recognized your name. He paused. Ma'am, with your permission, I'd like to come by tomorrow and take official statements. Not to prosecute unless you want to, but to create a record. If they escalate, you'll have documentation with law enforcement. Yes, thank you. And Mrs. Lawrence, what they did to you planning to drug you, forge documents, take control of your assets, that's not just unethical. It's criminal. You have every right to protect yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for that. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and cried. Not from sadness exactly, from relief, from exhaustion, from the overwhelming weight of realizing how close I'd come to losing everything. But I hadn't lost it. I'd saved myself. And tomorrow I would begin building a new life, one where I wasn't a resource to be exploited or a problem to be managed. Just Chloe. Just me. Detective James Morrison arrived at my house at 10 o'clock the next morning. He was tall, gray-haired, with Patty's same sharp eyes and direct manner. Mrs. Lawrence, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Call me Chloe, please, and thank you for coming. Emily was already there. She'd arrived at 8 with coffee and bagels, refusing to let me face this alone. Now she sat beside me on the couch while Detective Morrison settled into the armchair across from us. "I want to be clear about why I'm here," he said. "This is not a formal investigation unless you want it to be. This is documentation, creating an official record in case the situation escalates. Everything you tell me will be filed as a report, but no charges will be filed unless you request it. Understood?" "Understood," I said. He pulled out a digital recorder. "Do I have your permission to record this conversation?" "Yes." He pressed record and stated the date, time, and location. Then he looked at me. "Tell me everything, Chloe. Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about the past 7 years with Hannah, the subtle criticisms, the gradual exclusion from family events, the financial dependence that had developed. I told him about the dinner party, what I'd overheard, the switched glasses. Emily provided the text messages. She'd emailed them to herself as I'd instructed. Messages about the nursing home plan, the power of attorney scheme, the lake house deception. Then I showed him the photograph of the forged POA. Morrison's expression grew darker as he examined each piece of evidence. "This is substantial," he said quietly. "The forged POA alone is a felony. Add in the attempted drugging, the financial exploitation scheme, the conspiracy to commit fraud. Chloe, your son and daughter-in-law could face serious prison time." "I don't want that," I said quickly. "Why not?" He leaned forward. "Chloe, they tried to take away your autonomy, your freedom, your right to make decisions about your own life. Why are you protecting them?" I looked down at my hands, wrinkled now, spotted with age, but still steady, still capable. "Because Brandon is my son," I said simply. "And because destroying him won't undo what he did. It won't give me back the years I spent being useful instead of loved. It won't change the fact that I failed to see what was happening until it was almost too late." "You didn't fail," Emily said fiercely. "They deceived you." "She's right," Morrison agreed. "You were a victim here, Chloe. Don't blame yourself for trusting your own child." "Maybe, but I also chose to keep giving, chose to keep helping even when it became clear they didn't appreciate it. I enabled their dependence because I was afraid of being alone." I met Morrison's eyes. "I don't want revenge, Detective. I just want protection. And I want them to know that if they try this again, there will be consequences." Morrison nodded slowly. "All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'll file this as an official report, elder abuse investigation closed due to victim's request not to prosecute. But the report will note that substantial evidence exists and that charges can be filed at any time if the situation changes. It'll be in the system. If Brandon or Hannah ever try anything like this again anywhere, this report will come up." "Will they know about it?" "They will. I'm legally required to inform them that a report has been filed. They won't see the details, but they'll know it exists, and they'll know that their behavior is now officially documented with law enforcement." That felt right. A warning shot, not a killing blow. "There's one more thing," Morrison said. "I'd recommend a restraining order, temporary at least. It would prohibit them from contacting you or coming within 500 feet of your home for 6 months. "Is that necessary? After filing a false complaint against you, after what they tried to do?" "Yes, Chloe. I think it's necessary. They're desperate right now. Desperate people do unpredictable things." I looked at Emily. She nodded. "I think it's a good idea, Grandma, just for safety." "All right," I agreed. "Let's do it." Morrison spent another hour taking Emily's statement, photographing the evidence, and making notes. When he finally closed his notebook, he looked at both of us. "You're handling this remarkably well," he said. "Most people in your situation would be falling apart." "I fell apart last night," I admitted. "Cried myself to sleep, actually. But this morning I woke up and realized something. I'm 70 years old. I've survived losing my husband, raising a child alone, building a life from nothing. I can survive this, too." "Damn right you can," Morrison said, standing. "Patty's lucky to have you as family. And Chloe, don't let anyone, especially Brandon or Hannah, make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You did nothing wrong." After he left, Emily hugged me tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Grandma." "For what?" "Getting myself into this mess. For getting yourself out of it. For being strong. For teaching me what boundaries look like." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Can I tell you something?" "Anything." "I've been afraid to stand up to Dad and Hannah my whole life. Afraid they'd cut me off, stop paying for school, kick me out. But watching you do this, watching you choose yourself, even though it's hard, it's making me braver. I'm not afraid anymore." "Good," I said, squeezing her hand. "Don't ever be afraid to protect yourself, Emily. Not for me, not for your father, not for anyone." Over the next 3 days, I watched from a distance as Brandon and Hannah's world unraveled. The first casualty was the mortgage. Without my automatic payment, they'd missed the deadline. Late fees piled up. According to Emily, who heard it from Tyler, the bank had sent a warning letter. Then came the car insurance. Both policies lapsed. Hannah got pulled over for a broken taillight and discovered she was driving uninsured. $500 ticket plus the cost of reinstating the policy. The credit card payments I'd been covering went into default. Their credit scores dropped. Tyler's apartment rent was overdue. He had to dip into his savings, the money he'd been setting aside for a down payment on a house. "Dad keeps calling me," Tyler told Emily, who relayed it to me, "asking if I can lend him money. I told him I can't. I need to take care of myself first." Good for Tyler. He was learning the same lesson I'd learned too late. But it was Hannah who truly spiraled. Emily showed me Hannah's Instagram account. I didn't follow her, but Emily did. The posts told a story of increasing desperation, masked as defiance. Day 1. A photo of an expensive latte. Caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it." #self-care. #no apologies. Day 2. A sunset photo. Caption, "When people show you who they really are, believe them. Some family isn't worth the toxicity." #boundaries matter. #moving on. Was that about me? Probably. Day 3. A blurry photo of wine glasses. Caption, "Girls' night because I need it." When life gives you lemons, drink wine. #stressed blessed. #surviving not thriving. Day 4. No photo, just text. Apparently protecting yourself from manipulation is financial abuse. Can't make this up. So they were trying to control the narrative, painting me as the villain. I didn't care. Let them spin their story. The people who mattered knew the truth. On day 5, Hannah called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello." "Chloe." Her voice was tight controlled. "We need to talk." "I don't think we do." "Yes, we do. You've completely misunderstood the situation. If you just let me explain. Explain what, Hannah? How you were trying to help me by drugging me. How you were protecting me by forging legal documents. Please explain." "I never forged anything. I have photographs that say otherwise." Silence. Then, "Brandon told me about the police report, about the restraining order. Chloe, this is insane. We're family. Family doesn't drug each other." "It was just melatonin. You're acting like I tried to poison you. You put medication in my drink without my knowledge or consent. That's assault, Hannah. That's a crime." "Oh, for God's sake." Her voice rose, the careful control slipping. "You're so dramatic. Do you know what you've done? The mortgage is late, the credit cards are maxed out, Tyler is furious, and Brandon is falling apart. Is this what you wanted, to destroy us?" "No, I wanted to be treated with respect. I wanted to be seen as a person, not a piggy bank. And when that didn't happen, I protected myself. By cutting us off completely, without warning. You were planning to put me in a nursing home without warning. You were planning to take control of my money, my house, my life. Don't talk to me about warnings, Hannah. That was never. We were just trying to help." "Help yourself, you mean? To my money." Her voice went cold. "You're going to regret this, Chloe. You're going to end up alone with no one because you pushed away the only family you have." "I still have family. I have Emily. I have Tyler. I have Patty. I have people who love me for who I am, not for what I can give them." I took a breath. "Goodbye, Hannah. Don't call this number again." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the rush of finally standing up for myself. Emily called 10 minutes later. "Grandma Hannah just called Dad screaming. He's a mess. He's talking about, I don't know, maybe trying to contest the will or something. I just wanted to warn you." "Let him try. Richard said the will is ironclad, and I have documentation for every decision I've made." "I know, but—" Emily paused. "Grandma, Dad's not evil. He's just broken. Hannah's broken him. He doesn't know how to function without her, and she knows it, and she's using it." That's not my problem to fix, sweetheart. I know. I just thought you should know. He's not okay. Part of me, the mother part, ached at that. My son was suffering and I couldn't help him. Wouldn't help him because helping him meant enabling him. He'll survive, I said. People are more resilient than they think. On day 7, Brandon appeared at my door again. This time he didn't knock. He just sat on my porch steps waiting. I found him there when I came back from the grocery store with Patty at 2 in the afternoon. Patty, could you give us a minute? I asked. She looked at Brandon, rumpled, unshaven, defeated, and then at me. You sure? I'm sure. She took my groceries inside, but I noticed she stayed near the window, close enough to intervene if needed. I sat down on the steps beside my son, not too close, maintaining distance. We sat in silence for several minutes. Then Brandon spoke. I filed for divorce this morning. I turned to look at him. What? From Hannah. I filed for divorce. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes were fixed on the street. I should have done it years ago, but I was afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of failing. Afraid of admitting I'd made a terrible mistake. Brandon, let me finish, please. He took a shaky breath. I need to tell you something. About the drugging. About all of it. I waited. It was Hannah's idea. All of it. The nursing home plan, the power of attorney, the melatonin in your drink. She'd been planning it for months. At first I thought she was just venting, complaining. You know how she gets. I know exactly how she gets. But then she started making actual plans, researching facilities, talking to lawyers, not my firm, other lawyers. And when I tried to object when I said it was wrong, He stopped. She what? She threatened to leave me. Said if I didn't support her, if I didn't put her first, she'd take Tyler and Emily and make sure I never saw them again. She said she'd ruin my reputation, tell everyone I was controlling and abusive. She said, his voice cracked. She said no one would believe me because everyone knew I was weak. I felt a chill run through me. And you believed her. I was terrified of her mom. I've been terrified of her for years. Every decision I made, every choice, it was all about keeping her happy. Keeping her from exploding. I walked on eggshells in my own house. He finally looked at me. I'm not making excuses. What I did was unforgivable. I should have protected you. I should have stood up to her. Instead, I let her do terrible things and I helped her do them. I'm so sorry, Mom. Tears were running down his face. Real tears, not manipulation. I could tell the difference. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I found something. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded paper. This was in Hannah's desk drawer. I was looking for insurance documents and I found it. He handed it to me. It was a printed email dated 3 months ago. From Hannah to someone named Jennifer Blackwell. Jennifer, the old lady, is becoming a real problem. She's asking too many questions about finances, and I think she's starting to realize how much we've taken. Brandon's useless, won't stand up to her, just cries and apologizes. I need a backup plan. What if we could get her declared incompetent? Maybe some early stage dementia. If we could get a doctor to say she's not capable of managing her own affairs, we could get guardianship. Control everything. Think about it. The house alone is worth $300,000, plus whatever she has in savings and investments. We're talking at least $1 million total. I know a doctor who might be willing to help for the right price. Brandon doesn't need to know until it's done. Let me know what you think. I read it twice, then a third time. She was planning to have me declared incompetent, I said slowly, to buy a doctor's diagnosis, to take legal guardianship. Yes, Brandon's voice was barely a whisper. And I didn't know. I swear to God, Mom, I didn't know about this. I knew about the nursing home talk. I knew she wanted the POA, but this is beyond anything I thought she was capable of. I believed him, not because I wanted to, but because I could see the genuine horror in his eyes. Who's Jennifer Blackwell? Her old college roommate. They talk every week. Jennifer's the one who suggested the POA idea in the first place, according to other emails I found. You went through Hannah's emails. I went through everything. Once I started looking, I couldn't stop. Mom, she's been lying about everything. The money problems, she's been gambling, online poker sports betting. She's lost over $240,000 in the past 3 years. My stomach dropped. $240,000. That I can track. There might be more. She's been taking out credit cards in my name, taking loans against my 401k, even borrowing from my firm's client trust account, which is illegal, by the way. I could be disbarred. He put his head in his hands. I've been such an idiot. We sat in silence. A car drove by. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Normal sounds of a normal day. Why didn't you see it sooner? I asked quietly. Because I didn't want to. Because seeing it meant admitting I'd destroyed my relationship with you for someone who never actually loved me. She loved what I could provide, what you could provide, the life, the status, the money. Not me. He looked at me. I chose her over you, Mom. And I was wrong. So completely, utterly wrong. Yes, I said. You were. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about that question. Could I forgive him? Maybe. Eventually. But forgiveness didn't mean restoration. Didn't mean going back to the way things were. I don't know, I said honestly. You hurt me, Brandon. You stood by while Hannah tried to drug me to steal my autonomy, to take everything I'd built. And even if she was the mastermind, you participated. You enabled it. That's not something I can just forgive and forget. I understand. But, I paused. I don't hate you. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed. But you're still my son. And if you're serious about changing, about becoming the man I raised you to be, then maybe someday we can rebuild something. Not what we had before, but something new, something honest. He nodded, wiping his eyes. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. So don't waste it. Brandon stood up to leave, then turned back. Mom, the lake house. Uncle William's property. I'm signing it over to you. It should have been yours from the beginning. Hannah talked me into keeping it, said we could sell it for profit, but it was wrong. So I'm having my lawyer draw up the transfer papers. No strings. It's yours. I looked up at him. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I owe you so much more than a house, but it's a start. He managed a weak smile. Maybe you can go there sometimes. Get away from all this mess. Maybe I will. After he left, I sat on the steps for a long time thinking. About Brandon as a little boy bringing me dandelions from the yard. About the man he'd become, weak and lost and finally trying to find his way back. About whether people really could change or if the damage was too deep to repair. I didn't have answers, but for the first time in days, I had something I hadn't expected. Hope. 2 weeks after Brandon's confession, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Emily had moved into my spare bedroom temporarily. Just until the end of the semester, Grandma. I want to make sure you're okay. Really, I think she just wanted to escape the tension at her parents' house. We fell into an easy routine. Morning coffee on the porch. Grocery shopping together. Cooking dinner side by side in my small kitchen. You know what I've realized? Emily said one evening while we were making lasagna. I've learned more about cooking from you in 2 weeks than from Dad and Hannah in 19 years. Hannah doesn't cook, I said. Exactly. Everything was takeout or meal kits. She said cooking was domestic drudgery. Emily layered noodles carefully. But this isn't drudgery. This is nice. Peaceful. That's because we're doing it together. Cooking alone can feel like work. Cooking with someone you love is connection. She smiled. Is that why you always wanted to cook for family dinners? You were trying to connect. Yes, though I'm not sure it worked the way I hoped. It worked with me, Emily said softly. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, every time you made my favorite cookies just because. It all mattered, Grandma. It all connected. I had to turn away to wipe my eyes. Damn onions. Patty came over 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes we play cards, sometimes just talk. She was the sister I'd never had, and I was grateful for her in a way I couldn't quite express. You're different, she observed one afternoon over tea. Lighter somehow. Lighter, like you've put down something heavy you'd been carrying for years. She was right. I did feel lighter. Not happier exactly, there was still grief, still loss. But the weight of constantly trying to be useful, constantly trying to earn love, that was gone. I spent so many years trying to be indispensable, I said, thinking that if I just gave enough, helped enough, was useful enough, then I'd matter to them. But you can't buy love. You can only buy dependence. And dependence masquerades as love until the money runs out, Patty said wisely. Then you see what's really there. Which is usually nothing. Not nothing. Emily's still here. Tyler's been calling you asking how you're doing. Brandon's trying even if it's messy. You didn't lose everything, Chloe. You lost the illusion. And that's not the same thing. Tyler surprised me by showing up one Saturday morning with a toolbox. Grandma Emily said your porch railing is loose. Thought I'd fix it. You don't have to do that, sweetheart. I know. I want to. He set down the toolbox and looked at me. I should have visited more. Should have called more. I've been a shitty grandson. Tyler. No, let me say this. I knew something was off with Dad and Hannah. The way they talked about you, the way they always had their hands out for money. I knew, and I didn't say anything because it was easier not to. Because if I acknowledged it, I'd have to do something about it, and I didn't want the drama. He kicked at the porch boards. I was a coward, just like Dad. You weren't a coward. You were young. And it's hard to stand up to your parents even when you know they're wrong. Emily did it. Emily's special, and she's always been braver than all of us combined. Tyler smiled slightly. True. He picked up a screwdriver. I can't fix what happened, but I can fix your porch, and I can be here more, if you want me around. Of course I want you around. You're my grandson. Even though I didn't stand up for you. Tyler, you're 22 years old. You're still figuring out who you are and what you believe. I don't expect perfection. I just appreciate honesty. He nodded and got to work on the railing. We didn't talk much while he worked, but the silence was comfortable. When he finished, he packed up his tools and turned to me. Grandma, I'm proud of you, for standing up for yourself, for not letting them win. Those words coming from Tyler, my distant, distracted grandson, meant more than I could say. 3 weeks after Brandon's confession, Richard Davidson called. Chloe, the trust is fully funded, $450,000 locked in for Emily. No one can touch it without court order, and even then only for her benefit. Thank you, Richard. There's something else. Brandon's lawyer contacted me. He's processed the transfer papers for the Lake Morrison property. It's legally yours now. I was quiet for a moment. He actually did it. He did. And Chloe, I looked into the property. It's beautiful. 2 bedrooms right on the water, fully furnished. The previous owners, William and his wife, kept it immaculate. You could move in tomorrow if you wanted. Move in. Leave this house. The idea should have been unthinkable. I'd lived here for 42 years. Raised Brandon here. Buried my husband from this living room. Every corner held memories. But maybe that was the problem. Too many memories and not all of them good. Richard, what's this house worth on the current market? Your house I'd estimate around $320,000. Maybe $340,000 if you did minor updates. It's a desirable neighborhood. And if I sold it? Gave the proceeds to Emily. Silence. Then, Chloe, are you serious? I'm thinking about it. This house is too big for me, too full of ghosts. The Lake Morrison cottage is smaller, quieter, a fresh start. That's a major decision. I know, but Richard, I'm 70 years old. How many fresh starts do I have left? If I'm going to do this, really rebuild my life, maybe I need to start with where I live. We talked for another 30 minutes about logistics, taxes, timing. By the end of the call, I'd made my decision. I was selling the house. I told Emily that evening over dinner. She set down her fork, stunned. You're selling the house, this house. I am. But this is your home. This is where you raised Dad, where Grandpa. I know. And those memories will come with me, no matter where I live. But Emily, this house has become a monument to a life I don't have anymore. Keeping it won't bring back your grandfather or give me back the years I lost with your father. It'll just keep me stuck. Where will you go? The Lake Morrison cottage. It's mine now. Brandon transferred the deed. It's small, manageable, and it's on the water. I've always wanted to live near water. Emily was quiet, processing. Then, what about the money from selling this house? It's yours. Grandma, no. Yes. I'll sell for market value around $330,000 after fees and taxes. That money goes into your trust in addition to what's already there. It'll pay for medical school residency, your first home. Whatever you need. That's too much. It's not nearly enough. I reached across the table and took her hand. You stood by me when no one else did. You were brave when I needed bravery. You showed me what real family looks like. Let me do this for you. Please. Tears streamed down Emily's face. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She came around the table and hugged me tightly. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you'll ever know. The house sold in 3 weeks. A young couple with 2 children expecting a third. They loved the big backyard, the updated kitchen, the neighborhood feel. "We'll take good care of it," the wife promised as we signed the papers. "I know you will. Make happy memories here. It deserves happy memories." On moving day, Emily and Tyler helped me pack. Patty supervised making sure I didn't throw away anything important. "Not the recipe box, Chloe. I'm not throwing it away. I'm packing it carefully. And these photo albums, coming with me." We sorted through 42 years of accumulation. Most of it went to donation or trash. I kept the essentials clothes books, my husband's watch photo albums, the recipe box, a few pieces of furniture that would fit in the cottage. Everything else, let it go. Let someone else make use of it. Brandon came by on the last day. He stood in the empty living room looking around at the bare walls and echoing space. "It's strange," he said, "seeing it empty like this." "Everything ends," I replied. "Even the things we think will last forever." "I'm sorry I ruined this. Your home, your peace. You didn't ruin it. You complicated it, but I'm choosing to end it on my terms, and that feels powerful." He nodded. "Where's the cottage, Lake Morrison?" "Yes. It's beautiful. Small, but that's good. I don't need much space. Would you mind if I visited sometime? Not now, I know you need space. But eventually, I thought about that." Brandon was trying, really trying. Therapy twice a week, divorce proceedings, financial counseling to deal with Hannah's debts. He'd even joined a support group for people in emotionally abusive relationships. "Eventually," I agreed. "When we're both ready." He helped me carry the last box to my car, a new used SUV I'd bought specifically for this move. Something reliable, easy to drive mine. As I pulled away from the house for the last time, I looked in the rearview mirror. Brandon was standing in the driveway, one hand raised in goodbye. I waved back. And then, I drove toward my new life. 4 months after I moved to Lake Morrison, I got a call from Detective Morrison. "Chloe, I wanted to give you a heads up. The district attorney's office has decided to prosecute Hannah Sterling Lawrence for fraud and attempted elder abuse. They're not pursuing charges against Brandon. He's cooperating as a witness, but Hannah's going to trial." My stomach dropped. I didn't want this. "I know, but once the evidence was in the system, it wasn't your choice anymore. The DA felt it was in the public interest to prosecute. There's a pattern. Hannah attempted something similar with her own grandmother 5 years ago in Florida. No charges were filed then, but it's documented. They want to stop her before she succeeds with someone else. I have to testify." "You do? I'm sorry, Chloe. I know this isn't what you wanted." It wasn't, but maybe it was necessary. The trial was held in late September, 6 months after the dinner party that changed everything. I drove back to my old town. It felt strange to call it that, my old town, and stayed with Patty. Emily took time off from medical school to come with me. Tyler flew in from his new job in Atlanta. The courthouse was smaller than I'd expected. Hannah sat at the defense table in a conservative navy suit, hair pulled back, looking nothing like the flashy woman who'd once criticized my provincial decorating choices. Our eyes met once. She looked away first. The prosecution laid out the case methodically. The text messages, the forged power of attorney, the pill bottle with missing doses, the emails about having me declared incompetent, the pattern of financial exploitation. Brandon testified. It clearly broke him to speak against his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, but he did it. He told the truth about the nursing home plans, the fake lake house gift, Hannah's gambling debts. Then it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand, placed my hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was a young woman named Sarah Chen. No, wait. Sarah Williams. She was gentle but thorough. "Mrs. Lawrence, can you tell the court what happened on the evening of June 15th? So I did. I told them about overhearing the conversation about switching the glasses, about what I'd discovered afterward. "And why did you switch the glasses?" "Because I wanted to know the truth. I wanted proof that what I'd heard was real and not some misunderstanding. If nothing happened, if there were no drugs in my glass, then I'd know I'd been wrong. But when Hannah collapsed," I paused. "Then I knew. They'd really planned to drug me." "How did that make you feel?" "Betrayed, frightened, angry, sad, all of it at once." Hannah's lawyer cross-examined me, trying to make it seem like I'd overreacted, like it was all a misunderstanding. Mrs. Lawrence, isn't it possible you misheard that Mrs. Sterling Lawrence was discussing something else entirely? Then explain the text messages. Explain the forged power of attorney. Explain the emails about declaring me incompetent. He had no good answer for that. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on 3 counts: fraud, attempted elder abuse, and forgery. The judge sentenced Hannah to 18 months in prison, suspended to probation, 5 years supervised release, and 300 hours of community service. She was also ordered to pay $50,000 in restitution to me for legal fees, moving costs, and emotional distress. It felt anticlimactic. After everything, she'd served no actual jail time unless she violated probation. But it was something. A statement. A line drawn. I'm sitting on the porch of the Lake Morrison cottage, watching the sunset paint the water gold and pink. The wildflowers I planted in the spring are blooming a riot of color with no particular plan, growing wherever they please. Emily is inside cooking dinner. She graduated from her first year of medical school last month with honors. Tyler's coming tomorrow with his fiancée, a sweet girl named Rebecca, who actually seems interested in meeting me. And Brandon? Brandon comes once a month. We have lunch talk about safe subjects, his therapy, his new apartment, my garden. We're not close, not like we used to be. Maybe we never will be again. But we're honest now, and that's something. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. Hannah moved to Arizona, I heard, far away from her mistakes. I hope she gets help. I hope she learns something. But mostly I don't think about her at all. My phone buzzes. A text from Patty. How's the sunset? Perfect, I reply. As always. Good. You deserve perfect sunsets. See you Sunday for brunch. Wouldn't miss it. I set down the phone and breathe in the evening air. It smells like water and wildflowers and possibility. I spent so many years thinking I needed to be useful to be loved. Needed to give and give and give until there was nothing left. But sitting here in this small cottage by the lake with people who choose to be in my life because they want to, not because they need something, I realize I was wrong. I was always enough. I just needed to believe it. The door opens behind me. Emily comes out with 2 glasses of iced tea. Dinner's almost ready, she says, sitting beside me. Lasagna, your recipe. You're getting good at it. I had a good teacher. She sips her tea, looking out at the water. Grandma, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you regret it? All of it? The confrontation, the will change, selling the house. I think about that question. Do I regret it? No. I say finally. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that it hurt. Brandon hurt you and Tyler damaged our family. But the choice itself. Standing up for myself, no. I don't regret that. Good. Because watching you do it, watching you choose yourself, taught me the most important lesson of my life. What's that? That love without respect is just obligation, and obligation isn't love at all. I reach over and squeeze her hand. My brilliant, brave granddaughter. The wildflowers sway in the evening breeze. The water laps gently at the shore. Inside, the timer dings on the oven. Come on, Emily says, standing. Let's eat. We go inside together to the cottage that's become my home, to the life I built from the ashes of the one I lost. And for the first time in 17 years, I sit down to dinner without calculating what it cost me to get here. I'm just here. Just living. Just enough. Just free. Chloe Lawrence lives independently at Lake Morrison at age 71. Emily graduated from Duke Medical School and specializes in geriatric care. Tyler married Rebecca. They visit Chloe monthly and are expecting their first child. Brandon completed therapy and is rebuilding his relationship with his mother slowly. Hannah served her probation and has not contacted the family since the trial. The wildflowers bloom every spring wilder and more beautiful each year.